Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here. Welcome back to some Mechwarrior Online news. Yesterday, I covered some skill tree reconfiguration speculation, what they could do, and so forth, as we've been waiting on the devlog to cover. Well, that devlog just hit. I'm going to go ahead and dive in here and watch the devlog together and give a live response again. And then what we'll do is we'll look at some of the other images on the devlog post and Q2 improvements. Anyway, so let's go and just dive in and I'll give my initial impressions and listen to the devlog. So without further ado, let's go.
Greetings, Mech Warriors. Welcome to a devlog, one of a few devlogs this week. Well, I should say, hopefully this week. We've having a bit of trouble getting these out, but we wanted to get these information to you guys as soon as possible. As you may notice, Darren's not here with me. Instead, I have Mark. Say hi, Mark.
Hello. I'm filling in for Darren today.
Yes, and it's actually really exciting that you are because we have some really cool stuff to show them. So, do you want to just fill them in on what we're going to look at, Mark?
Yeah, we're looking at the update to the quirks and skills in the Mech Lab that are going to be color coded, so you'll actually be able to figure out what each thing is in that list. We're going to be looking at the skill tree reconfigured, and we're going to be looking at the event queue.
My baby. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that why waste any time, right? Let's just jump right into it. So with that, I'm gonna click the scene change. Boom. There we are. So I guess there's one more preface that we should do, which is that everything is work in progress. We are in the process of getting these things finished and put in and tested. The other thing is that the screen itself is displaying in 720p. That's simply because I'm using it on remote desktop and playing through my computer at home. Let's take a look, Mark.
Yeah.
I just moused over the adder here.
Oh, look at that.
This is what you see. Describe what we're seeing, Mark.
Yeah, we got all our quirks and in color. You can see all the base armors in blue, all the ballistic stuff's in purple, lasers are in yellow, the same way you would see them in a lot of the other color-coded stuff in the game. So if you go into the Mech Lab, all the lasers are in that yellow category. They're now yellow here. Show them the next part.
Missiles are
hit that
green
square
as well.
Hit that button I didn't know was here for several years.
The even cooler view.
I did spend several years not knowing that button even existed.
This is what I was
as a player and then also as a developer for so long.
Expand and collapse full mech details. If you didn't know about it, then you learned it here first. Thanks, Mark.
And now they're actually organized into groups based on the categories of the skill tree system.
So bonus shows your chassis C-bill and XP bonus. This is a hero with a set of 8 quirk that gives it a 2.5% XP bonus. Firepower, survival, operations, and sensors. These lists will grow, and I think we're looking at, Mark, adding a few more color codes.
Yes, I think we are talking about that. So that'll probably be coming shortly. It's not in this build yet.
The idea being that if it's a certain color on the skill tree, it should be a certain color in the quirk display as well. We'll try and...
Okay, so what's interesting here is I like this. This is very similar to MechDB for those that are familiar. It looks like it's a quick at a glance. It's got them color coordinated here. There's some interesting things on here that is still doesn't distinguish between what a quirk is and what the skill tree is here, as far as I can tell initially. And I know that was sort of a request, is to sort of see like the difference here, because like if the the skill tree has, what is it, however much percentage or whatever, you sort of wanted to know what's the base skills on, or what's the base quirks on here. So if I was looking at this adder, the cinder, what is the base quirks, and then maybe I make adjustments. Obviously an Omni-Mech isn't as easy as comparatively to like just a battle mech, but that was the only thing that maybe they'll clarify here in a second, as far as I was under the impression that we'd see like base, what is because that's really what we want, right? Yes, it's nice to be able to see. It's all cleaned up and stuff like that. But I thought the idea was to be able to see base quirks versus what a skill tree. I mean, obviously, I understand it's a little bit weird too, because like, let's just say you have a laser duration quirk, and then you also have laser duration nodes. You'd either have to display both or just combine them. So I understand that too. So I know it's not as easy, but I do like the one screen here. I think this is absolutely fantastic. Being able to see this, breaking it down into the firepower survival operations, like this is nice. Yeah, I definitely like that.
All of the quirk color coding as it stands right now. Let's take a look at the skill tree.
Oh, you've already got some set up on
Oh
this
my
guy
gosh.
because we've been working with it for half the day.
Yes.
This is so much different.
So
Okay.
I think we'll
Wow.
just
Okay.
continue on anyways. But this is your first look at the complete reconfiguration of the skill tree. What used to be a spider web has now become a very discrete set of paths for skilling up your mech.
Yes.
Okay.
And it does away with a lot of the needing to get a bunch of stuff to get one of the things you want at the end, or trying to pick and choose how to navigate through it.
Interesting here.
And we collaborated with the Cauldron with this. They presented a really simplified design. But one of the key reasons we decided to keep this exact same number of nodes is that we didn't want to create a huge process of us refunding, doing some form of
one of the things I
conversion
pointed
on
out.
your XP
Yep.
and skills,
Yep.
then collapsing the skill trees, and you having to go back and reskill mechs of a new skill system. Goal of this system is to make it easier for new players to understand, for existing players to get the skills that they want and set up the mechs the way that they want, and as well to make it part of the mech customization loop. Now, if you want advanced zoom on a mech, you just go in and you get it.
So
I like this.
there's going to be no refund. This is just the new system will land, and all your existing mechs will still work the way they are. You don't have to rework any of your skills. It just happens.
Yes. So the one caveat to that may be that if you have unlocked range all the way up to 10, but you omitted, because of the path you took in the current skill tree, you didn't have range 4 or 5 or 6, you would have to then buy those once you started adjusting your skill tree. But until that time that you go into the skill tree and start making changes, your mech will just work as is. There'll be no change in performance from your previous existing skill tree.
And this reduces the number of clicks as well, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about this is, let's show on a purely locked one here, is that traditionally you would go in and click each one along the path. But now, if I wanted to max out hard break and I had the skill points for it, I just click on the last one. I've equipped all of them. I can apply the changes. 7 skill nodes. Saving. Done.
Let me just pause right there and say thank you. Good fucking job right there. That's good. Yes, like it. I'm liking everything I see so far. I speculated that they couldn't refund XP, and this is exactly. Now you don't have, there's no more BS grinding through nodes that you don't need. You can be very, very strategic, and it looks like, just let's watch that again really quick. Look how easy that was for him to do.
The skill points for it. I just click on the last one. I've equipped
And
all
boom,
of
he's
them.
done.
I can apply the changes. 7 skill nodes. Saving. Done.
Excellent.
Like it.
And the reverse works for unequipping. I can click on the top one. They're all unequipped. Save. Okay. Done.
So we still have 91 nodes, but we end up with way less clicks if you know which sections you just want to level.
Yes. And I'm hoping that it creates a lot more experimentation, feedback into something you do in the mech lab, going, oh, I've done this in the mech lab now, I've changed my loadout, I totally want to go and make this really fast mech, so I want to focus on mobility. There are a few nodes that the Cauldron did want us to kind of put behind some other nodes. In particular, those nodes were consumable slots.
Yeah. Well, also some of those extra features in that tree only work if you actually buy certain consumable slots as well. So
I'm okay with
that
this.
makes sense.
Yeah. As well in the sensor range, ECM and radar. Obviously, the ECM isn't on this mech, otherwise that would be equipable. But radar deprivation being a high value node.
Yep, that makes sense.
But at the end of the sensor range tree. So if I click on this, I can access this one, this one, this one, this one, and I've maxed out that tree very easily. Seismic sensor is another one that's placed at the end of a target info gathering chain.
Yeah, I think those make sense. Those are super powerful.
And as well, under kinetic burst and speed tweak. Speed tweak.
That's so nice
is at
right
the
there.
end of these kinetic bursts.
This is so nice right here. There's no more. Oh my gosh, that is so nice.
But again, easy.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Finally.
And
That's 5
and
clicks.
way less expense to still get it. It's now only a little bit.
Now,
Yeah,
now let me go and pause, and this is why it's also super awesome that they do this. Now, I saw a comment saying something about jump jet tree and so forth. This system right here allows, obviously the current system, they could do it too, but what they can do with this system is they can actually say, you know what, jump jets are still not being used, whether it's thrust, vectoring, or whatever. They can actually do small buffs to those percentage-wise and target things on the skill tree now that actually give a little bit more value. Or in reverse, they could take a little bit away. Like, hey, you know, maybe I just sort of tossing that out there, the cooldown or percentages or whatever. But now you no longer have to go through a whole bunch of nodes that you don't necessarily need to get what you want. Your mechs are actually going to perform better now based off like the survival tree and some of the things. You want structure, you can go structure. You want armor, you go armor. You want just cooldown. This is so much better. And
Omit any of these torso list.
Yeah, 12 points to get all your speed tweak. And you're getting just kinetic burst, a thing you probably want anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, so as far as like power creep happening on here, like, oh, well, certain nodes you're just going to go to, yeah, that's going to be the case. But if you notice here, like laser duration here is negative 2.5. And again, what they can easily do is they can adjust and tweak ones that are maybe too good, because firepower is now just easily more accessible. And so what you can do is you can adjust those up and down. Same thing with others. I like this across the board.
So yeah, that is the new skill tree. What I'm going to do is when we put up this devlog is I'm going to get a screenshot of each section. But I'm going to take a short break, Mark, and then when we come back, we can take a look at the event queue.
Yes.
Awesome.
Excited for that.
This is something I've been championing at the company for a long time, and it is event queue. And you'll notice up here at the top, Mark, look at this.
There's no
play,
Slayer.
Action play, event queue. So this is
Yeah,
your first look.
You've been championing this for like 3 years now, and it's exciting to finally see it.
It better be a success, or I'm gonna get fired. No, I think it'll be good. I think everyone's gonna love it. So this is the first look at the event queue window. First of all, the title of the event will go up here. So I've jokingly said things like Irby Derby in the past, or Steiner Scout Lance mode. Whatever we've decided to name the event, it'll be up at the top. The time remaining will let you know how long you have to drop in that mode. This area will be restricted to the kind of the description. So it'll talk about what mode, what map, what modifiers we may have. And then over on the side here, we also have a list of mechs allowed. Going to be anything from all mechs allowed, faction like IS or clans, weight class, chassis type, so like atlases, all the way down to the variant.
Okay, so we're going to be able to have a set mode. My understanding is we're only able to select one map and mode per event, so people will be able to know what map and what mode they're going into for the event, which means you can bring a mech that's designed for that and plan around that better. We'll be able to choose a selection of mechs or any mech depending on what the event is. We're going to have some modifiers that will be able to play around with things. People might remember long ago when Paul and Tina were running some stuff, and Paul was doing live edits to server settings and changing things on people, lowering the gravity, upping missile spread. Those are some of the things that we're not looking to make everything silly. We want to try and have something that feels fun, but we're still looking at what we could put as an initial set of modifiers for this system. So Matt, tell me about this drop deck.
Yeah, so
there's one mech here, but there's 4 slots.
Yeah, so if right now the mode is set to something that is a single mech drop, so like a traditional assault mode, but if we had a faction play mode where you required a drop deck, each one of these slots would be available. And now what's really interesting about this is it's not a drop deck from anywhere else. This is exclusive to the event queue, so it's just like a 1 to 4 mechs that you've selected to drop in the event queue in. And as well, when you click on this, you select your mechs for the event. This entire screen is filtered by what is allowed to go into the event queue.
That's cool.
So you can apply these additional filters that will never show you a mech in this screen that you can't take into
I like that.
the event.
Makes it super easy.
Okay. And for groups?
Oh, yes. So in the group menu, group type will switch from quick play to event queue. There.
Okay.
And then as well, access it through this button up here, and select your mechs filtered by the event queue as well.
Cool. I'm so excited for this. It's gonna bring
so
a lot of the ability to try.
So what's interesting with that is that that means groups will be allowed in event queue, and there's no mention of group change sizes, so up to 4, so 2, 3, and 4, but we don't know match size. And as far as event queue, I don't know if they'll answer that.
Try interesting things and just stop some of the game from being stale. And at the same time, quick play will still be there.
Yeah, in the past weekend, Mark, I made the Foolish Things to Do in MWO event, and this queue will now become my Foolish Things to Do in the event queue, and I won't
That answers.
bug people if people don't like what's happening in the event queue. They can definitely stick to quick play, and those rule sets won't change. So, yeah.
I'm super excited for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, and we've left out a few details here and there that we're going to probably share in the future. Example, Mark, like we forgot to mention, we're actually reducing the cost of acquiring skill points.
Yes.
Forgot to mention that in the group or the event queue, you're going to be able to have groups of specific sizes, the number of players from 1v1 all the way up to 12v12, and also say groups are allowed in event queue or no groups in event queue, or even further to that, you can say groups only in event queue. There's a lot more details that we'll be coming out with as we get closer to completion of this feature. We wanted to let you guys know what it is we're working on, what it is we were putting on the roadmap, and so you guys can look forward to it.
Cool. Can't wait. Excited for it.
And I think you're going to be joining us for another devlog tomorrow, Mark.
Yes.
Talk about
Max.
X.
I love
Awesome.
this
Keeping
face.
you rolling in Max.
Yeah. Cool. So that's it for this devlog. I hope you guys enjoyed the preview. Give us your feedback in the forum threads. We'll be reading them, checking them out. We'll try and keep you guys up to date as we progress and when this feature is going to land. Right now it's looking like May. But until then, we'll just keep sharing the information. Until next time, Mechwarrior. Bye from me. Bye from Mark.
Now what's interesting here is they have Mechwarrior Online Solaris. There's no Solaris up top. Again, the rebranding of MWO. They said they were going to be removing it. Event queue coming out. So I think this is us saying goodbye to Solaris here. Everybody wave. Not gonna miss you. But what they basically said is Solaris can come back. Basically, he said one-on-ones and stuff in the event queue. So that's actually quite interesting. But again, that was not mentioned, but we sort of knew. And again, going back here,
Ended a simple, really simple.
this right here is exactly great solution. Gets rid of all of the unnecessary things, and hands down. Now, I was expecting a little bit different as far as the quirks here, because I was expecting you to be able to see. I understand it is complicated though, for the reasons I was pointing out. Default quirks versus what you have, but either or, color coordination is fantastic. I think it's super nice to have. But I was expecting there to be a difference, because that's generally what you wonder when you're looking at a mech that's already got skilled out. You don't really know what is attached to it as far as quirks and end goal. It's not an easy solution, because then you'd have to have like 2 laser durations, and then yeah, it gets complicated. So absolutely fantastic. This is a great devlog. I look forward to seeing the next one. Everything about this skill tree, fantastic. No more BS around there. No more having to like go through nodes that you don't need. And I was just talking to someone who hopped on my stream, was asking specifically about skill tree, and so many of the comments on the skill tree video where people left. I think if this would have came out again, this is so much better than what we have currently, and it allows them to also fine tune. So I think it's best of both worlds. It'll be interesting seeing the reduction cost as well. But overall, that's cool. I like the event queue, and it's funny enough, I was just talking about the event queue and how there's been a lot of negative feedback about this April Fool's event as far as the cat game. But one of the things I pointed out, which was maybe that's what they're going to use for event queue. And that's pretty much what Matt said, is they're going to be using all those. So now when there's an event going on, you're going to hop in an event queue, and I'm assuming it's going to be curtailed around that, which is interesting, because if it has to do with, you're going to know what map it is, you're going to know what mechs you'd need, and so forth and so on. So that'll be really interesting and play out there. And again, just to point out, for those that didn't see this, there is no more Solaris. They said they were going to be removing it. Obviously, he said this is a work in progress, but event queue, faction play, and quick play now, and no more Solaris. Solaris is going away, and you'll have to rely on event queue. So this is a pretty substantial update. This is the first major actual development of the game that we've been waiting for this is 1.5 years. And so I'm super excited for it to come out. And yeah, kudos. That was your devlog, guys. I'll cover more details here in just a second. Bounce out there. Go here. Okay. Just give me a second, guys. All right. Pretty cool devlog, Matt. Thank you for joining, by the way.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, man. So there's a few things to break down. Obviously, one of the things I pointed out was the skill tree, the actual quirks being displayed. As I was saying that, I know I've had conversations in the past about the difficulty of like displaying like quirks versus like the quirks plus the skill tree. Is that basically what you guys decided on, was that it would have been even more cluttered than needed, and so you just combined it and just sort of showed the with color coordination? Is that pretty much the gist of it?
Yeah, some of it was out of necessity, some of it was out of usability. So, as you can imagine, we've got an engineer working in Flash, trying to facilitate getting these features done. And the information that they're getting is from kind of a flattened file. So Flash reads in whatever is being saved to your mech, or whatever the save file is, and those things get flattened for data purposes. Like, you're not wanting to transfer a ton of data when you're going to the front end UI, like the sheer number of mechs that you load. So he doesn't really get separated information. and he would have to write super complex code to kind of separate those things out. And as well, we looked at it from a usability standpoint. It's like, okay, and I should say the Cauldron really presented a much more thorough breakdown and design on this system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we kind of had to go with what fit with the time that we had.
That,
So
understand.
so we had to simplify it a bit. Um, we'll see where that gets us by the end of this, and we're still tuning it, and we want to hear you guys' feedback. This is very much work in progress. I saw a new build this morning with different usability on the skill tree, which I think, like, based on your reaction, is hitting exactly where I wanted it to hit. Um, and yeah, so those two things combined are a great quality of life improvement. Even if we can't get it like perfect in terms of how we show the skills there, I think no matter what, this is going to be huge improvement for people understanding. Okay, I got my quirks. I got my mech as default when I just bought it. I can see the quirks there, and they're color coded for what they relate to in both the mech lab and to the skill tree. So it makes more sense visually. And then when I start adding stuff in the skill tree, you can see that list getting bigger. You can also see that in the mech stats window reflect based on what section you're using of the skill tree. So it'll be firepower, survival, mobility, jump jets, operations, auxiliary, all that stuff will be separated out in the mech stats window.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, like, man, like, ever since the skill tree, and again, this has been, I think, one of the biggest controversial inclusions into the game to date, and it did drive a lot of people away. And I understood also in that video I just made, which was you guys are in a weird spot where to do any improvements, if you reduce node count, it's a clusterfuck. Let's just call it what it is, because of the stated reasons: XP giving back, and what if I owned it, and what if you move around, what if you consolidate nodes and stuff. And so I was really intrigued to know how you guys were going to do this. And I had a few visualizations in my mind, words. But I think this is so much better. And the ability to click on the bottom node or however long, because, like, if I'm doing a mech that I want just range, I no longer have to BS and, like, do that. Now, as far as usability, I think it's fantastic that you showed. You can click on the bottom, boom, it just goes all the way down. I mean, you're right, it's going to reduce click count. And in doing so, it's no longer 91 clicks. And I think you've solved sort of one of the biggest hindrances of this skill tree when it's first introduced, which is the amount of clicks, which I pointed out. If you have hundreds of mechs, man, which is your player base now, your player base has a lot of mechs. I mean, even if you had 50, I mean, that's a lot of clicks. So yeah, usability, fantastic. I have a few people, obviously, in my Twitch chat pointing out, maybe this node might be a little bit more like, the nodes are going to be more powerful now just because you can get right to them. But I don't view that as a negative. I view that as just an opportunity for you guys to balance, because now you can actually say, like, oh yeah, the cooldown nodes are too powerful, or hey, these jump jet nodes no one still uses, so let's look at buffing these. And you no longer have to go and get these extra nodes that you didn't want. And to me, that's been another big complaint. Like, why am I having to grab these? I don't need range. I just want velocity. Well, now you can do that, and you don't have to, like, there's no. So if anything, this is just like the Mech Lab, where it allows you to min-max as your heart desire. Now this is basically on top of that. So I just wanted to point out, yes, you're 100% right. The ability to click at the bottom and it goes all the way through, and that's one click, and you can get all the range nodes. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we fixed also an issue with misclicking. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but when you're skilling at a tree on live right now, sometimes you'll click and it'll just kind of move and it won't actually select the button. So they fixed that as well. All in all, the skill tree is so much more easier to, like, look at it, read it, and understand what it is that you want to go after, and then equip it as fast as possible, and then save it and get out. And I really wanted it to be, one, easy for new players to kind of grasp. That's why I think the color coding of the quirks along with the color coding of the skill tree. We're going to add some more colors to the skill tree and relate them back to the quirk display, and try and keep it aligned with the colors we use in the mech lab. So there's going to be like, we're trying to avoid like rainbow puke vomit
Sure,
screen,
sure.
but at the same time we want to color key it as much as possible. And Mark Nicholson's like literally working on that right now. Also, the even if you watch the video as I'm mousing over stuff, um, it didn't indicate the skill point is being spent. Now we actually have that, so it'll be like equipping up to a point and then show if you're actually going to spend additional skill points. So the improvements are still coming, and they're still coming fast, and it's really, really exciting. I think it's probably one of the best things, one of the best feature improvements we've done since starting Reborn, like October 2020.
Is that the
Really?
official rebranding name,
No,
Reborn?
no, no. Reborn's our code name
Oh,
internally.
okay, okay.
It encapsulated all of our goals for MWO, which was like
Sure.
to just reinvigorate the product, get people playing, get people excited, having fun, and try and like take all the player feedback and incorporate it as much. Is why we've been working with the Cauldron, and like 100% hats off to those guys. They put in a ton of work. We debated the skill tree. They presented probably one that was like ultimately would have been like the perfect skill tree or something for some people, but it just clashed with too many of our other objectives, which is to not refund things, to make it so that players could like, because right now when this skill tree comes out, you're not going to have to fuck with any of your mechs. You'll just go and drop in the game and your mech will feel exactly the same.
Sure.
And then you're like, okay, well, let me go take this one mech into the skill tree system and reconfigure, like, check out what nodes I actually have unlocked in this, because it'll be a bit of a patchwork, right? So, as you can imagine, the paths
Yep.
are completely changed. So, if for whatever reason you didn't take a node that was like higher up in the tree, like a node 2, 3, or 4, but you've got like 6 to 8 or something, those nodes will still be locked. So, there is going to be some friction there where you're like going to have to spend um, GSP, uh, buy a GSP in order to get that. And I did mention we're doing a reduction of cost. Currently, that is set to 40%. So let's say it was 100,000 C bills, it would now be 60,000 C bills to unlock it.
That's quite a
Uh,
significant change because I think it was upwards of like 2 something million, I think
Actually, let me.
2.5 or something per 91 nodes or something like that. I think that's what it was, maybe a little bit higher. So yeah,
I can. I'm gonna pull
40%
up the
off.
design.
Yeah, I mean that's good. That's great for new players too because and this is why I think this is a smart move on your play. 4.5. Thank you, Twitch chat. Which, by the way, if you're watching this video, I do stream Monday through Friday, 12 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll have a link down below, twitch.tv/NGNGTV. The other voice you are hearing right now is Matt Newman. He is the producer over for Piranha Games for Mechwarrior Online. So that is the voice that you're hearing. Look, I think this is the iteration that the skill tree needed. I would argue that I think it would have been awesome for you guys to rip it out, but that's not where you guys are. That's not the resources you have. And I think this is a win-win because of the things listed out. If I'm doing a, dual Goss, Jaeger, I no longer have to pick up heat nodes that I had to pick up previously. And so I had wasted nodes. So they were pointless, right? I no longer have to worry about that. I can be very selective. And the ability to click, at the very bottom, just boom, here's all the cooldown. Here's all the velocity. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. The reduction in node cost for newer players coming in, I think is fantastic because they messed this tree up so much because it was confusing. Like, what do I do? Well, now like, oh, well, my build's not really hot. I don't have to worry about heat gen nodes, or hey, I want my mech to go faster. I can go over to the speed tweak ones. I don't have to literally go through all these other nuances of the skill tree to again, go to your
Yeah, I feel
elbow.
like. Yeah, I wanted it to be part of the fun part of customizing your mech. Like the whole point of Mechwarrior is like it's fun to customize your mech. You go into the mech lab and you're like going to make like spicy builds, or you're gonna make your fast builds. You're gonna make your brawlers. You're gonna make your knife fighters. Whatever it is, um, going into the skill tree should not give you heartburn. It should be a fun part of the whole process. So once you guys get it in your hands and you start clicking the nodes, my feeling is this: we're going to reduce the costs, and I think eventually people will unlock their full skill tree. I mean, obviously there'll be some nodes that just won't apply. There won't be ECM. There won't be um, anything there. But eventually you're just going to get to the point where like, yeah, I want to have so much fun in here. I don't want to be limited by anything. So I'm going to make it so that I can actually experiment with it. And I hope that that becomes really a fun part of the loop. And I think as a new player coming in here, it's pretty easy to understand. Now, you still have to have grasp the actual value of like how valuable this node is to my play. But I think ultimately it'll be a lot easier for players to pick up, experiment, have fun, and not be super, super, super intimidated when they get into it.
And I think it's less time in the mech lab,
Yeah.
in all honesty, which means more time playing, which is, I think, a good thing. I mean, even as a
Import export will still work too,
okay.
like so that you'll still be able to do your builds there. One thing that might be funny that I don't even know if it's gonna work properly or not is like importing old configurations. So that
That's
might be there might be some growing pains there. We haven't tested that quite yet. Um, it's going to be interesting. Ultimately, we'll transition to this. I think it'll be a welcome thing for most of the community. I'm hoping that it'll bring back some people, like you said, people that left. When this, I was watching your skill tree video this morning, and you were like, you made bold claims of thousands of people that left,
yeah, it
and I
did.
was like,
We looked in the
yeah, I know,
numbers. They're public
uh,
numbers. We can see them.
I know,
So yeah,
I know. I'm hoping all 1,000 of them come back.
yeah.
I really want to like once we release this. I'm hoping the event queue will be really really fun. Um,
So
and I'm
let's
hoping
talk
this.
about the event queue. I- are you officially able to say Solaris will be, if this comes out in May, Solaris is no longer going to be a part. At least that's up there.
So
It's
Solaris isn't going to be gone in the sense like we could eventually bring it back if we had a solution. It's what it is the button to access Solaris is gone, so there's no way to access it.
so we
But it's not
wave
taken.
goodbye. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the goal will be to have Solaris weeks in the event queue.
Yeah.
So leaderboards, events. One thing that's neat too, and you were talking about how I ran the event on the weekend for foolish things to do, and it disrupted play in quick play. I'll be leaving. I'll still have events where you can earn rewards in quick play. You'll still be able to earn the free mech of the month in quick play, and you'll still be able to earn the free mech of the month in event queue, assuming the challenges are pertinent to whatever event queue is running. Like you wouldn't be able to get conquest in event queue or conquest wins if you're not playing conquest in event queue. If it's just assault, then obviously you got to go into quick play and do that. But it'll allow me to tailor the event in the event queue and give exclusive rewards for just playing the event queue, and allow you to contribute match score, kills, all those things to regular events. So like the free mech event, so you won't miss out on generic events. Like right now, you can get the free mech event in any one of our modes by accumulating mech score or match score. That will still work, but I can also run sub events that are specifically targeted to the event queue as well at the same time.
Awesome. So it's interesting because 100% player behavior can be dictated by events, and this is one of the things where I'm on the fence about because the win by assault cap, right? That's the one that's the I think
Mhm. Yeah, it's
the
the frustrating one.
controversial
I
one.
call it the frustrating one.
Right, but here's the thing. It also led to one of the most intense and crazy matches that I've had any time recently. And so the reason I say that, not to say it's to do it again, but it's just the fact of, people when you do something like missile damage. Well, guess what? People are going to bring missile boats, LRMs, boats, and so forth. Right? It's going to change their behavior. They're going to run just ballistic, just energy builds, instead of sometimes just playing naturally, like a just, hey, just get X amount of match score, right? 5,000 match score, 10,000 match score, whatever, over the period of time. And so I don't mind it as much, but it does change the thing, and I think it sometimes leads to player frustration because some people burn through that really quick, right? Some
Yep.
people just but in doing so, it does create chaos, and it does seed sometimes negative, I would say negative behavior for players as well, and towards others and so forth. So to be able to move that to event queue, and I just, while you were talking, I was just picturing like you could easily just do a 12v12 all assaults, and what would that do?
Good times.
What would that do? Like that would be great, like all atlases or whatever you want it to do. You can do those now, and I do like the fact of you mentioned this is event queue is not going to be going 24/7, unless I guess maybe it's super popular. But event queue being able to turn it on and off for however long. I look forward to that, to giving it a test. But I think the only critique I've really had with the events that are done is sometimes just because, like, for instance, someone was using tag lasers for the energy thing, right? So they're just running around. And so it's just one of those
Yeah.
where, or you have a group of 3 spiders that's going around and just quick capping, and there's nothing the enemy teams can do, but also the fact of, what happens if those spiders died? That 3-man went from, only taking 90 tons out of like what 200 that they have. And so it's an interesting relationship between doing an event, having a set of rules, and then those rules changing what players are doing. I did have a question as far as if I'm playing on event queue, am I earning the same amount of C-bills? Is it the same sort of economy, so I don't have to really worry about missing out on getting C-bills for playing? Is that how that's going to go?
So that's a good question. I got to be honest. I don't know. Right? Like I've asked for the ability to boost rewards in there, um, or reduce rewards. Like all the events that I want to make, I haven't made yet. I don't know what the effect on the match score, C-bill, and XP earning will be. So if it's 1v1 Solaris, let's say Inner Sphere mediums all weekend, there's a leaderboard. When we craft that event, we generally know like a 1v1 short, right? And you're going to choose your best Inner Sphere medium mech, get it kitted out, and you're going to drop in there, and hopefully the matches will be kicking off like left, right, and center, because people are in there and they want to have fun doing that. And 1v1 should be easy to match. And then you drop in, you play, and you're in and out fairly quick. Hopefully matchmaking is quick. And then you're earning rewards like time based, right? So your match score may be lower, your XP may be lower, and your C-bill earnings may all be lower, but perhaps you're playing more matches per hour.
Sure.
So I really don't know. Like I really don't know, but I do have the ability to have a knob that dials up or down rewards, and as well, if I feel like I don't want to do that, I can also just make an event that is part of the event queue that says play 10 matches, get 5 million C-bills and X amount of GSP or XP or whatever. So I can use multiple systems together to make it still rewarding.
Okay. Really, that covers everything you guys talked about. And again, the color coordinating of quirks here. The skill tree, again, I can't wait to get my hands on this. That'll be super nice. And then, the event queue to give it a go. I think that pretty much covers everything. Was there anything else that, you want to talk? Obviously you mentioned another.
One thing, event queue will not affect PSR. So
Okay.
if you go in and play a derpy event, like it's just silly, like unlimited machine guns or unlimited ammo, and no reload times or something,
Okay.
and
Nice.
jump jets. Like I've made a crazy event, and you guys are like, "This is crazy, super fun," but I don't want this to affect my PSR. Don't
Sure.
worry, it won't. It'll
Okay.
take it into account when you're doing matchmaking, but PSR will only be affected by quick play and faction play matches.
Okay. Obviously, I have more question as far as matchmaking goes, but I think that'll probably have to be another discussion.
Well, that's our
you know?
investigations
Yeah, yeah.
post launching this. Like
Yeah.
as you remember on the roadmap, like that's definitely something we're talking about now as we develop these features. And really, like the timeline for this is not far off, May, which means that you guys are seeing it in a work in progress state, which means that we're refining colors, we're refining the UI, we're refining the flow, and we're giving feedback to the engineers. And just since yesterday, I had a new build that shows stuff in the skill tree that's much more informative, much more solid than it actually was that I just demoed yesterday. We recorded this yesterday afternoon, got it up this morning. And this morning I was looking at a new build and I was like, oh shit, I wish we had this to show yesterday. But still, continual improvements moving forward. This will enter QA soon, which means that it has to be wrapped up for the beginning of May. I mean, we got a few weeks until we're fully in QA. I hope to be able to demo it again soon to show the improvements, the final colors, that kind of things. I'm in the midst of like uploading high-res screenshots like I promised in the post. I'm also going to provide the grind reduction information, copy and paste that in there, a few other notes. But yeah, I'm super excited. Like I know like it's been a long time coming. The beginning of the year was met with some disappointment in terms of the news we were able to release, but we've been working on this for a really, really long time. We were talking to the Cauldron about this months ago, trying to work on this, and they've done a great job of just like letting us do the work that we had to do in order to get this out in front of you guys. So it's, to me, I'm super excited. I wanted to do the event queue, and I know that players have been asking for the skill tree colors and fixing or quirk colors and skill tree reduction. And I think on May, like I really want people to come back. Like tell your friends, come back and check it out. I don't know what the first event's going to be though. I was thinking maybe something founders related, like Forest Colony with like Atlas's catapults.
You could always,
Genders only.
yeah, could always do. I mean, there's a lot of ideas that you toss out. I mean, like I said, the skill tree I'm excited for. I think that's a step in the right direction with utilizing what you guys have, and it solves again the clicking, which I think is monstrous. So it's no longer 91 clicks unless you really wanted to, I guess. But so yeah, that sort of solves. But yeah, thanks for your time, man. Thanks for answering this. Obviously, you mentioned another devlog, so I'll cover that. Looks like Mark's going to be talking about mechs, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, we're going to do a maps and mechs
okay.
devlog.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll review that when it comes out and ask questions as well. But yeah, I appreciate you getting on here. You want to answer any questions from chat, or do you got time to do that, or
Which ones?
From Twitch
Sorry, I wasn't reading chat.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah,
I didn't either. I just figured, we'll just open it up to, I guess relevant topics, guys, as far as skill tree, quirk display, and event queue. Just to be very clear. So feel free to tag Matt, guys. He is in chat. Matt Neutron. Tag.
Okay, so Marduk 879, I think it's pronounced. Removing the C-bill costs on skill nodes finally the thing. It's not removing, it's a reduction. So it's C-bill and XP, but it's 40% reduction. I'm going to be posting that in the news post, what the cost will be. Reducing it 40% allows us to look at, the feedback from the players and, examine if a further reduction is needed. Again, with the goal being that skill tree becomes a fun part of it. And as you kind of pointed out in your video, the economy of that is not so much of a concern anymore. With the sheer number of mechs we have, and anybody joining this game at this point has so much work to do to get even remotely caught up to someone who's been playing it for 10 to 15 years. It doesn't make any sense to gate that level of progression. And anybody who's playing it this long just wants to get their mechs into a playable state as fast as possible, right?
Sure.
Which is why we include the GSP in the packs.
How's the response been for the Crusader?
Oh, great. we've been taking the feedback on the forums, listening to people's stuff. There's some, definitely miscommunication around the engine speed, or it was kind of confusing because we had like
Yeah.
engine
It confused
actually
me. I
and
was
then
like,
engine
hold
speed.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
yeah, it's backwards. So we updated that. That looks better now. I know there's some debate about the viability of some of the variants. I think the Cauldron's going to weigh in on the quirks before it gets released, and we'll try and release that information. And again, you'll have a whole month to get your early adopters post that. I know there was a response about the missing out on the $20 pack of the initial investment there, and I totally understand that perspective. Keep in mind this mech will be free at some point, so if that's your style, that's your style, and I'm totally happy with that. And I really, really appreciate everybody who has dropped some money on it, because it helps us a ton to be able to know that you guys are excited, that you guys are bought in, and I guess the one thing that really we want to address is that, like, my goal, Darren's goal, is to be working on this game for the next 5 years, beyond that even. Like, we can continue to support this game past um, the license expiration. We just couldn't make a new game beyond that.
Yeah, that
So
that
this
was
game has
interesting.
plenty of life left in it. And
Yeah.
so we can continue to develop it. We can continue with features, improvements, all those things. Um, you know, so I don't want people to feel like they're going to drop money on this game and it's going to disappear. It's not. I want to keep this ball rolling for a long time.
Yeah,
A
that's
long,
that
long
that
time.
was actually interesting because I didn't know if Darren had misspoke or whatever. But I was like, I probably want to get double confirmation on that. So, come 3 years when the let's just say you guys don't get a renew, you guys can continue developing MWO. You just can't add like, Mech 6, Mech 7. You just be
It has to be economically viable for us, and that means it behooves us to make a game that players want to play,
sure. Right. From a
right?
business,
So
yeah.
yeah, from a business standpoint, it needs to make sense for players to spend money on it, um, so that we can keep the lights on, right? And that's what we're doing, is we're changing the game to what players want, so that they say, yes, we approve. Here's $20 for this variant pack that I want to play, um, and it doesn't like uh, the event queue is one of the most exciting things for me, simply because we have a ton of content in the game that didn't that the features surrounding it didn't get utilized properly. Solaris being one of them. So I'm looking forward to running Solaris weeks where everyone dogpiles in there. Darren has plans around faction play events. Like, if you remember, Tukid, a lot of fun that weekend when we were just like, hey, Tukid was the only planet, and everybody dogpiled into faction play, and matches were fast and furious. And there was lots of players. So we want to get the game. We want to fix these things. We want to do the investigations that we have on the roadmap, and then we want to rebrand and try and bring people back as much as possible. Because there's two things you can do. You can get players who have left, who had already played, already invested, know your game, and left for a reason to come back, or you can get new players. And I think that my number one goal, is to get players to come back because they like what we're doing, because they left because we did stuff that they didn't like, or they got bored, right? So I think that the potential of players coming back is just as good and just as high as bringing in new players. And everything we change, we kind of look at it from those three perspectives. You've got a new player coming in. Does this make sense to them? You've got a player who's hardcore, been playing for 10 years like you, Phil. Is this something that they want? Is this something that is going to make their life better? Is this something that's going to give them fun? And then you've got people that at some point burnt out and left. And is this enough to bring them back and get them playing again? So we ask ourselves those three questions on every feature. And I really feel good about this feature set that we just previewed. And I can't wait to see what you guys think of it.
Sure. I mean, and I think it goes farther. Like one thing I'm really excited for is the potential future stuff like faction play, because like I think there's some really cool stuff you guys could do, but I feel like the discussion just has to be has to be had of like, hey, what are we wanting that experience to be like, and then what resources do you have to be able to dedicate towards it? But like, I've always wanted to be addicted to faction play. Like we used to. That's how I met Darren. Was back in the day, Living Legends. They had a really fun game mode, and I always felt like that would be super awesome. But you know, to have, and you know, it's also the fact of like faction play. It never. It's sort of like Solaris. It never, you know, just never kicked off. Like there was some initial hype and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, well, what experience do we want there and stuff. So anyways, that's a conversation I can't wait to like start talking about and seeing what you guys are thinking as well. And because, you know, maybe it's just like, hey, what kind of cool group play experience can we pull off with faction play compared to quick play or event queue that, you know, we're limited on, you know, the time, 15-minute matches or whatever, and we can do longer stuff and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting. Did have a few questions in chat. So we got one from Ferret. It says, would it be possible to have a mouse over tooltip in Mech Lab over mech that shows the chassis quirks like Omnipods are?
Maybe. I don't know. That's so you're saying you mouse over it right now, it shows, it does kind of in Mech Lab?
Yeah, like yeah. If you go, you know, I'll
Because
demonstrate.
we have so
here.
many screens, right? You have
Yeah,
to kind of show me what you.
I'll demonstrate. So like, if you go to you can mouse over the CT here, and it'll pop up. You know,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you know what I'm
'cause
saying?
right
Like
now, you mouse
the
over
set of
the
eights. You know,
Omnipods, and it
yeah,
shows you what the.
yeah. Obviously,
Okay, so
this
you want to
isn't
know?
this isn't an
Do you want to know
Omni-Mech,
what it
so.
currently is, or what it is stock, or like?
Well,
Because
you have that feature, so I guess, you know, the ability to do that instead of having to click this button and bring this up. I think what they're saying is like, could you, even on just a regular mech, like a regular battle mech, you could just have it mouse over and it displays the quirks right here. Whereas this is Omnis, and you
yeah,
already have that
showing a set
functionality.
of 8.
But like if you were to go, well, you even have it on just on the Omnipods.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
so, go to a regular
But would
battle
you want
mech.
to see? Would you want to see what it is on the mech currently, so that when you moused over it, it basically shows what you would show when you're selecting it? Like, go to the select mech for a sec. Go to select mech, the mouse over a mech, and right now it shows your quirks all in
Yep,
over there.
yep. So
Is that what you're saying? You want that list,
I don't
that
know.
big jumbo mumbo one?
The mech works for any mech to mouse over CT. I mean, so you have a few different ways. I mean, you have the quirks right here. You'd have the quirks just by going here and doing that.
Because I mean, the mech.
He's saying the stock quirks. Okay, so he's distinguishing the stock quirks versus maybe that's where
Because
you.
it just shows your current quirks right now. Like any place, like if you buy the mech stock, you see the stock quirks. If you, and I think in the store you can see stock quirks.
Yeah, but I think
know
this,
it's not convenient. I'm just
yeah.
trying to.
No, I think this goes back to the first question I had, which was the original idea was to distinguish between stock quirks and what you have on the skill tree. That was the original thing.
I know.
So
yeah.
I concede. You know, if you sit around, there's no easy way to do it other than just like literally have them separate, and then you have to do different colors. Because I remember having this conversation like 5 years ago. Yeah, about 5 years ago, behind the scenes too. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Let me see. I did have another question. Paper Craftsman says, I was temporarily convinced that light PPCs have a minimum range because they do in testing grounds. Don't know if that's true. Does anybody know if that's true? I don't know why there would be any difference between local and servers.
Testing grounds may have different rules. I don't know. That's a good question. Could you send that into support at mwomercs.com, because it'll create like kind of a bug for us. Put it in the bug database, then QA will confirm it, and then we can put it on the backlog to see if we can address it. As far as like improvements beyond what it is we're doing, like let us get this into a good state, and then we can kind of go from there. Like we're intending to release these 3 features in May, which means we have the remainder of this month to improve and QA it, and then let's get it in your hands, get you guys using it, and then you guys can hit us back with some feedback, and we can talk about those things in the other areas while we're doing our investigations, because some things may be easy, some things may be hard. It always has to go back to an engineer, and do we have an engineer resource available to do it at that given time? And we may be, focusing on, the other investigations that are important, or we feel are important, before we loop back onto improving this feature. I know it's been a long time coming for some of these things, so I can definitely understand why you guys are trying to get all the improvements you want, but we've kind of set ourselves up with a good snack plate of feature improvements to work on, and we're slowly munching that down, and we got to get that out the door and really get it in your hands so you can see where we're going to go from here.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions pertaining to those 3 items. There's some other questions, so we'll just go ahead and we'll cover those when he gets there, guys. Yeah, so thanks again for answering questions, and look forward to, again, a month, hopefully. Said and then diving in here.
Yeah, the
and
patch date should be on the roadmap, I think.
yeah, it's usually, it'll be what, May 24th or 17th, one of those days, 17th or 24th. Yep. So yeah, man, fantastic. Yeah, thank you again for hopping on here. I'll get this out there to the masses, but if someone has any feedback, best way, go forums, post on that post.
Yep, just respond in the forum post there, and I'm gonna put up the high-res screenshots after this so you guys can pick them apart.
Awesome. Thank you. I do appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, everybody in chat, and I hope you guys like what you see. I'm out, ski.
Later, man.
Later.
And of course, like I said, that's Matt. He's the producer over for Mechwarrior Online. We're talking about the devlog that just happened, and he's able to answer a few questions there, which I think, going back to the topics at hand, which is the quirks, the skill tree, and the event queue. I do want to also highlight that I think some of it's going to be compromised. I know, including myself, I'd have loved to see a new skill tree, something completely different, but that just wasn't going to happen. So I think this is a great compromise. The ability to, again, click on a node tree and it just automatically takes the click count from 91 down dramatically. I think that's fantastic. It also allows us to fine tune. I like the color coordination of quirks. That is nicer. I think one of my difficulty things, and I think that's what we were just pointing out, which is more often than not, I go to a mech, let's just use the Warhammer 6R, for example, and I need to know what quirks it has base level. And that's where it's really difficult, and it didn't look like they were able to really solve that in this case of knowing. So unfortunately, we'll still utilize like MechDB for that, because it does list off. I can just pull up the Warhammer 6R and it'll list the quirks that it has. But that's really the biggest thing is, when you pull up a mech that's already skilled out, and maybe you want to reconfigure it, you want to try something new, what does it have skill-wise there? So that's always, I think that's the missing part in this. But other than that, it's fantastic. The skill tree, the new implementation that they have, spot on. And then, of course, event queue. I'm excited for it to give it a go. I think it'll be fun. It could be fun as well. Maybe bring some people back based on that skill tree and stuff like that. So I think the big thing takeaway for me here is that change is actually happening. I've said it time and, again, they've got to deliver, and it looks like they're potentially going to deliver next month, which I'm really hopeful that they are able to do. And this hopefully is the start of seeing more and more and more. And I'm really excited for those discussions as far as faction play, because I've always wanted faction play to be something, and it just never lived up to, well, just that. So anyways, yeah, if you guys found this informative, click that like button. Quick shout again to Matt for showing up and popping and answering questions. Leave a comment down below. Are you excited? Is this something, if you left because of the skill tree, if you were always frustrated with it, do you like this type of implementation? Again, let me know down in the comments down below. And yeah, again, like I said, I stream Monday through Friday, 12 to 6 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to pop over here on stream. I hope to see you on the next video. Until next time. Just a friendly reminder, we have a sale going on over at our store. If you didn't know, a link will be down below. 10% off all orders over $10 for the entire month of April. Enjoy.